Welcome to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast. Get ready, because today we're diving deep into a story it's baffled people for over 20 years.
It really has. A genuine mystery.
We're talking about Asha Degree, a 9-year-old girl who disappeared from her home in Shelby, North Carolina, and the date, Valentine's Day 2000.
Right in the middle of the night.
Exactly. Our mission today is to really unpack the details we know, look at the very strange circumstances surrounding it all, and try to understand, why this case still grabs people. We've got a lot of reports, timelines.
A lot to sift through.
Yeah, just picture it. It's a stormy night. I mean, really stormy. Heavy rains, strong winds battering this small town. And in the hours before dawn, a little girl walks out of her house alone into that storm.
It sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? But it's not.
No, this is the real-life mystery of Asha Degree.
And that image you just painted, it raises the first huge question, right?
Yeah.
What makes a child leave safety, leave home, especially in weather like that? It feels wrong from the start.
It does. So let's set the scene a bit more. Shelby, North Carolina. It's generally described as a rural area, kind of on the western edge of the Charlotte metro area.
So not completely isolated, but definitely has that small-town, rural feel.
Right. And the Degree family lived there. Harold and Aquila, the parents. They had 2 kids, O'Brien, born in '89, and Asha, born August 5th, 1990.
So Brian was about 10, Asha was 9 when this happened.
Yeah. And by all accounts, they were a close family, active in their church, involved with school. The parents worked regular jobs, kids had chores, homework after school, pretty standard stuff.
A stable home life, it sounds like. No obvious turmoil or red flags that you might typically associate with, say, a child running away.
Exactly. Which, as you said, just makes what happened next even more baffling.
It really amplifies the mystery, forces you to think beyond the obvious explanations almost immediately.
Let's talk about Asha herself. She was a 4th grader, went to Falston Elementary. People described her as cautious, maybe a little shy.
And she had a specific fear, right? Dogs.
Yeah, apparently quite scared of dogs. Which is just another small detail that makes the idea of her wandering off alone at night seem less likely,
Add to the picture. What about the weekend right before she disappeared?
Okay, so it was a long weekend. School was out that Friday. She had basketball practice. She was on a team.
Right, she played basketball.
Yeah, a point guard. Then on Saturday, her team played a game, and they actually lost for the first time that season. And Asha fouled out.
Oh, tough game for a 9-year-old.
Definitely. Reports say she was really upset, cried with her teammates, But apparently later that day, her brother O'Brien had his game. And she seemed okay by then, like she'd bounced back.
So a typical kid's reaction, maybe
No.
disappointment, but she got over it. Doesn't immediately sound like a reason to leave home.
No, not at all. Just seems like a normal, if slightly disappointing part of her weekend.
It does give us a little window into her personality, though. Competitive, maybe sensitive, but also resilient, it seems.
Okay, let's move to Sunday night, February 13th, 2000. Bedtime was around 8 p.m. Asha and O'Brien shared a bedroom.
Standard routine.
Then, something unusual happened around 9 p.m. There was a power outage. A car accident nearby knocked out the power in their neighborhood.
Ah, okay. So the house was dark for a while.
Yeah, quite a while. Power didn't come back on until about 12:30 a.m. And her dad, Harold, he checked on the kids right when the power came back at 12:30, said they were both asleep. Then he checked again around 2:30 a.m. Still asleep.
Okay, so those checks are crucial. They pin down the timeline. She was definitely in her bed at 2:30 a.m.
Definitely.
The power outage itself, what if it played any role? Made things feel different, maybe unsettled?
It's possible, I suppose. Hard to say. But here's where it gets really strange. Her brother, O'Brien, he later remembered hearing Asha's bed squeak sometime shortly after that 2:30 check by their dad.
Okay.
He just assumed she was, turning over in her sleep, didn't think anything of it at the time.
Right, why would you?
But it looks like that was probably the moment she got up. And apparently she'd already packed a book bag, filled it with clothes, some personal items.
She pre-packed a bag?
Seems so.
Yeah.
And then she left the house, walked out into that storm we talked about, middle of the night, heavy rain, wind. It's just unbelievable.
Wow. Okay, the pre-packed bag is a huge detail. That suggests, intention, doesn't it? Some planning.
It really does.
But for a 9-year-old to carry out that plan in that weather, that's the part that just doesn't sit right. It's so counterintuitive. What could possibly motivate that?
I know. And the story doesn't stop there. Between about 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., so roughly an hour, hour and a half after she likely left.
Yeah.
Two different drivers, completely separate people, saw a little girl walking south along Highway 18, near the intersection with Highway 180.
Walking on the highway in that storm.
Yes. They both mentioned how bad the weather was. She was wearing a long-sleeved white t-shirt and white pants, which, isn't exactly storm gear.
No kidding. White clothes, walking along a highway at 4 a.m. in pouring rain.
And one of the drivers, a trucker, I think, found it so strange, so concerning, that he actually turned his truck around to go back.
Okay, good.
But as he was turning, he saw her run off the road into the woods. Just disappeared into the darkness by the roadside.
She ran away when she saw him coming back.
That's what it looked like. And the descriptions both drivers gave matched what Asha was thought to be wearing. These sightings. They're the last time anyone is confirmed to have seen Asha Degree.
That's chilling. Those sightings are absolute vital, though. They confirm she left the house, she was walking alone in that specific area, in those conditions.
Right.
Her reaction to the driver turning around, running off, was she scared? Scared of being caught, maybe? Or was she meeting someone? Or expecting someone? So many questions just from that one action.
Exactly. So the next morning, Monday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, Asha's mom, Akila, she wakes up around 5:45 a.m. Time to get the kids ready for school.
And Asha's not there.
She's not in her bed. Akila checks the house, frantic search, calls out for her, checks the cars, the immediate area outside. Nothing. Oh, I can't even imagine that moment. That dawning horror.
By 6:40 a.m., they'd called the police. Officers arrive, start searching. They brought in police dogs pretty quickly.
Did the dogs pick up anything?
No, that's another weird thing. No scent trail for the dogs to follow. Now, maybe the heavy rain washed it away?
Or maybe she didn't walk far before. Something else happened, like getting into a car.
That's a possibility investigators considered. They did find a mitten nearby, but Aquila said it wasn't Asha's. And like we said, no coat or heavy winter clothes seemed to be missing from the house, despite the awful weather.
So she walked out into a cold, rainy, windy night wearing just a t-shirt and pants. That detail just keeps standing out.
It really does. But then the local news started reporting Asha missing, and that's when those two drivers called in, reporting what they'd seen hours earlier on Highway 18.
Ah, so the sightings came in after the initial search started.
Right, and that focused the search efforts on that area along Highway 18 where she was last seen running into the woods.
Okay. Did they find anything there? Yes. The very next day, Tuesday, near that spot, investigators found some items inside a shed at a nearby business, sort of off the road.
Inside a shed, what did they find?
Candy wrappers, a pencil, a green marker, and a yellow hair bow. Aquila confirmed these belonged to Asha.
Okay, so that confirms she was right there, near or even in that shed. The school supplies, the candy, sounds like things she might have had in her book bag.
Could be, but the book bag itself wasn't found there. Not then, anyway.
Anything else in the shed?
Yes. And this is another really strange piece. They found a photograph, an unidentified photo of a different black girl who looked maybe around Asha's age.
A photo of another girl, not Asha.
No, and nobody knew who this other girl was or why her photo would be there, potentially near Asha's things.
Wow, that's incredibly odd. A complete unknown dropped into the middle of everything. What possible connection could that have? It feels like a clue, but to what?
Exactly. Just another question mark. And around this time, Aquila also realized some more specific clothing items were missing from Asha's room back home. Her favorite pair of blue jeans, the ones with the red stripe.
Her favorite jeans. So the clothes in that pre-packed bag, she chose them carefully. Things she liked.
It seems that way, which, again, points to some level of planning, some intention. But the motive, still completely missing.
Right. So the initial thought might have been runaway, but...
But yeah, a 9-year-old in a storm. With no obvious reason, it just didn't add up for investigators either. It was considered highly unusual, highly unlikely.
Especially given her cautious personality, scared of dogs.
So fairly quickly, the official thinking shifted. Authorities started working under the theory that Asha likely left home for some reason, but was then abducted shortly after.
Which changes the entire investigation, obviously.
Yeah.
From a missing person to a potential crime involving foul play.
Yes. And sadly, statistically, for a child that young, disappearing under such strange circumstances, abduction becomes a more probable scenario than a sustained runaway attempt.
A terrible conclusion to have to reach, but probably the realistic one.
The case, understandably, started getting national attention. The Degree family appeared on shows like Montel Williams' America's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
Even Oprah
trying desperately to get her picture out there, hoping someone somewhere knew something.
Absolutely. It's the kind of story that just resonates with people, that parental fear.
And the community in Shelby really stepped up too, didn't they?
They did. In March 2000, just a month or so after she vanished, a big billboard went up along Highway 18, right near where Asha was last seen. Her picture, information about the case.
A constant reminder.
And incredibly movingly, her family started an annual walk. Every year, they walk from their home to that billboard. They still do it today.
Wow. Well, we're 2 decades later.
Yeah.
That's powerful. A testament to their love and their refusal to give up hope. It keeps her memory alive in the community.
It really does. And there were other efforts, too. In May 2001, a stock car racer, Travis Kittleson, put Asha's picture on his car for a televised race.
Using his platform to raise awareness. That's great.
Yeah, just trying anything to keep her face, her story in the public eye.
Every little bit helps, potentially reaching that one person who holds a key piece of information.
Then came a really significant break, or at least a major development. August 2001, so about 18 months after she disappeared.
Okay, what happened?
Her book bag. It was found.
They found the book bag. Where?
A construction worker found it, but here's the thing. It was found off Highway 18, but way up in Morganton. That's about 26 miles north of Shelby, north of where she was last seen.
26 miles north. That's
Yeah.
a long way. And in the opposite direction of where she was walking if she was heading south on 18.
Exactly. And it wasn't just lying there. It was found wrapped in 2 black plastic trash bags, like someone had deliberately tried to conceal it or dispose of it.
Double bagged. Wow. Okay, that strongly suggests someone else was involved after she disappeared, right? Someone trying to hide evidence.
Yeah.
And it tells us she, or at least her bag, traveled a significant distance.
For sure. And the bag itself had her name and phone number inside, confirming it was hers. But the contents. This is where it gets even more confusing.
What was inside? Aside from the clothes and personal items she presumably packed.
Well, that's just it. The reports focus on 2 specific items found inside that are particularly baffling. One was a copy of a Dr. Seuss book, McElligot's Pool. It was a library book from her elementary school.
Okay. A library book. Could that be traced?
Potentially, yeah. But here's the weird part about both items. The other item was a T-shirt, a New Kids on the Block concert T-shirt.
New Kids on the Block. Okay, very specific pop culture reference for that time.
Very specific, but listen to this. Investigators said that neither the Dr. Seuss book nor the NKOTB shirt could be definitively confirmed as belonging to Asha before they were found in her bag.
Wait, what? They weren't confirmed hers?
Yeah.
So where did they come from?
That's the million-dollar question. Why were these items in her bag if they perhaps weren't hers to begin with? Were they planted there? By who and why?
This is huge twist. If those items aren't hers, they must have been put there by someone else. Maybe to mislead. Maybe they belong to someone connected to her disappearance.
Yeah.
That library book. You checked it out last. And the T-shirt. Did anyone see her with it? Or recognize it from somewhere else? These seem like critical clues.
Absolutely critical. But for years after that discovery, it felt like the investigation just stalled again. So many leads were followed up on.
Any examples?
Well, in 2004, there was a tip from a prison inmate who claimed to know where Asha was buried. They excavated an area based on his information.
Oh.
Found only animal bones. Another dead end. Just years of hope followed by disappointment. It's the heartbreaking reality of cold cases sometimes.
It really is. Time passes, memories fade, evidence degrades, and false leads can just consume so much time and resources. It's incredibly challenging for investigators.
But through all of this, the Degree family, their strength is just incredible. In 2008, they established a scholarship in Asha's name.
That's wonderful. A way to honor her memory positively.
Yeah, supporting other young people. And that annual walk to the billboard, that continued year after year, a constant, quiet insistence. She's not forgotten.
Their resilience is amazing, keeping her name out there, keeping the pressure on, never giving up.
Then in February 2015, a new surge of activity. The FBI officially joined the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office in the investigation. They offered a reward, up to $25,000 for information leading to her whereabouts.
FBI involvement is significant.
Yeah.
Brings fresh eyes, federal resources, specialized units.
Right, and it seemed to lead somewhere, because in May 2016, the FBI announced a possible new lead, a potentially crucial piece of information.
Oh,
They said they had information suggesting Asha might have been seen getting into a particular type of car around the time she disappeared.
okay. What kind of car?
A dark green, early 1970s model Lincoln Continental Mark IV. Or, they said, possibly a Ford Thunderbird from that same era. And they added a detail. The car likely had rust around the wheel wells.
Wow, that's very specific.
Yeah.
A 70s Lincoln or T-Bird, dark green, rust. After all those years to get a tip that specific.
It makes you wonder where that information came from, doesn't it? But it was specific enough for them to release it publicly.
Yeah, hoping maybe jogs someone's memory. Someone who knew a person with a car like that back then maybe saw it in the area.
And the FBI clearly took this lead seriously, because in September 2017, their Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team, the CARD team, got involved.
CARD team, those are the specialists, right? Experts in analyzing these kinds of cases.
Exactly. They bring a lot of analytical power, looking for patterns, behavioral insights. Their involvement suggested the FBI felt this car lead, or other information, was worth intensive focus.
So the investigation was definitely heating up again around that time.
It seemed so. Then, in October 2018, investigators circled back to those strange items from the book bag.
The Dr. Seuss book and the NKOTB shirt.
Yes. They made another public appeal, asking specifically for anyone who might know anything about those two items. Where did they come from? Who might have owned them? They called them potentially vital clues.
Still focusing on those items after all this time. It really suggests they believe the origin of that book and that T-shirt could be the key to unlocking the whole thing.
It certainly seems that way. But even with this renewed focus, progress remained elusive. In November 2020, another inmate claimed to know something.
Let me guess. Another dead end.
Unfortunately, yes. Led nowhere. Just another painful false dawn for the family.
Ugh, that's just awful. These cases are such an emotional roller coaster.
They really are. Okay, but let's bring this right up to the present, or very near present. Because there has been significant activity more recently between September 2024 and April 2025. This shows it's still very much an active investigation.
Right, okay. That's actually quite recent. What's been happening?
In September 2024, law enforcement executed a search warrant based on, quote, physical evidence. And the report suggested authorities now believe Asha was a victim of homicide.
Homicide. Wow. That's a heavy confirmation, if that's their working theory. What kind of physical evidence? Where did they search?
Details are limited, as you'd expect in an active case, but reports mention items were seized, including apparently a green 1964 AMC Rambler car.
A 64 Rambler. Okay, another specific vehicle. This search warrant. It's a big step. Suggests they're focusing on a particular location or person.
It certainly does, and it didn't stop there. In February 2025, 3 more search warrants were executed. This time, cell phones were seized.
Cell phones. Okay,
Yeah.
Digital forensics.
And get this, reports indicated that investigators found text messages containing possible admissions related to the case, and also conflicting accounts between individuals.
Whoa. Okay, text messages with admissions. Conflicting stories. That could be huge. That could be the break they've needed for decades.
It really could be. It points towards potential communication, maybe coordination, or perhaps attempts to cover things up.
Absolutely. Digital evidence like that can be incredibly powerful.
And then, most recently mentioned in our timeline, April 2025, another search. This time of a property once owned by someone described as a prominent figure in the investigation.
A prominent figure. Okay, that's intriguing language. It shows they're casting a wide net, or perhaps narrowing in, and not shying away from pursuing leads wherever they point, no matter who might be involved.
Exactly. It underlines that after all this time, they are still actively pursuing this, following leads, executing warrants. It's far from a cold case file just sitting on a shelf.
That's actually quite remarkable, the persistence after nearly 25 years.
It really is. And if you find yourself gripped by this story, by the twists and turns and the enduring search for answers, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Tell Me More Stories Told As podcast. We explore incredible mysteries like this regularly, and you won't want to miss our future deep dives.
Definitely subscribe. Because these recent developments, executing multiple warrants, seizing phones, finding potentially incriminating texts, it really does offer a renewed sense of hope, doesn't it? That maybe, just maybe, the truth about what happened to Asha Degree might finally be uncovered.
It feels closer than it has in a long time, perhaps. But the disappearance itself, it remains just so deeply perplexing, so poignant. A reminder of how a life, a family, a community can be forever altered by unanswered questions.
That ordinary night turning to this extraordinary, decades-long mystery.
Yeah. Think about it again. The 9-year-old girl, the furious storm she walked into, that motorist who tried to help but maybe scared her deeper into the woods.
And the book bag, found 26 miles away, wrapped in trash bags, containing items that might not even be hers.
Yeah.
How did it get there? What does that journey signify? It's still such a baffling piece of the puzzle.
It is. The recent warrants, the shift towards a homicide investigation. It shows the case is alive, the search for truth continues, hope persists, fragile as it might be, for Asha's family and everyone touched by this.
Absolutely.
And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What if the key isn't some grand conspiracy, but one of those small, nagging details we've talked about? The squeak of her bed just after 2:30 a.m., the exact description of that rusty green 70s car, or the real story behind who last held that Dr. Seuss book or wore that New Kids on the Block t-shirt.
Hmm. Those seemingly insignificant details could hold everything.
It really makes you think about all the stories we don't know, the pieces still missing, and the truths that might still be out there hidden just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment or the right person to finally bring them into the light.